Oh, you mean that kind of line? Okay. Um, my uh, my experience is with medical grants and stuff, and and I just know that there's two things that are true, and that is that whenever anybody says it's not about the money, it's about the money. And the second thing is that that there's going to be some push. I would anticipate, based on what the PAB spent this year, there will be an attempt to restrict the budget for next year based on the fact that it didn't use all of its $5 million. Okay.
Okay.
That's just my guess. I'm not claiming anything more than that. So what I thought would be helpful would be for us to just and the other thing is that this year's budget will be compared with last year's expenditures. So I thought we could just briefly go through that and go through the proposed initial budget for this year and call it quits, and give the finance committee time to think about it, and maybe have one more meeting before the presentation so that we can close up any gaps that we find. Does that make sense?
Dr. Harrison, that makes a lot of sense. I just want to say that, Rosabelle, our chief of operations, is the master of our budget. And I want to be able to give her time to put together a presentation, with her staff for the board, before the actual hearings. Rosabelle, I asked Rosabelle to provide the materials you requested just a few hours ago. So I don't want her to have to be in a place where she has to dive into all of the details because they aren't all right in front of her. But Rosabelle, I don't know if you feel comfortable just giving a brief overview of the top line numbers in terms of expenditures through the year. And, are we, do we, I think a big question, Bob, that maybe Rosabelle can help answer is, are we on track to spend the $5 million this year?
And I can definitely answer that as in yes, we are on track to spending the $5 million. Yep.
Okay. Now the spreadsheet that you, okay, where is it now? The spreadsheet that you submitted that had the this year's budget and the expenditures on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's called the PAB finance spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Did I misread that? Because it looked to me like you were spending something like $3 million out of the 5.
Yeah.
Yep, 3.5 is listed on there. In the past month, I have made several requisitions and encumbered funds for a lot of equipment that we need in the new office space.
All right, so I misunderstood. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. It's missing a lot of
yeah, it is missing a lot. Yes.
It's missing, Rosabelle just got the lease contract entered today, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that the professional services subheading that I see here?
No, it's not. It's not included in there. Mm-mm. Yes, it was just this morning submitted.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I just want to say, this is the information you have is the most updated. It just takes time for purchases and procurements to be put into the system.
I understand that part really well.
Excuse me. Are many of the submissions that are missing going to amount anywhere near the 1.5, that's, okay,
Yes.
got it. So
I
we don't
just
have
want,
wasted money just sitting out okay.
no, and Rosabelle, do you want to just go through some of the things that are going to be making up that 1.5?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And so 5 of that, so 500 of that would be the state grant, which will be going into the new fiscal year. $1 million of it is, so we're talking our rent, our fleet, and our soundproof intake, our private soundproof intake booths that will be at our new office location, and those even with all the equipment that was just purchased for the office space, all of that would be up to and pretty close to the amount that we're talking about, the 1 million.
In short, could you say a little bit about the fleet?
The fleet is 5 vehicles. That the 5 vehicle, we are purchasing 5 vehicles that were not approved in the capital improvement plan. So we're taking it out of our operating budget in order to fund these, and so we should have 5 fleet by this, by the summer.
And these cars are for transitioning. We have to have community engagement events across the community. We have to go out, distribute complaints, collect complaints. We have to have investigators go on scene to respond to incidents and events. And so there's going to be enough travel so that our consultants and the experts suggested that we buy some vehicles. And Rosabelle, what's the average cost of one of those vehicles?
Anywhere between 25 and 40,000.
And we're trying to keep it on the 25 level, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, you also have a line item in there for mileage.
Yes, we have.
And I just want to,
If they're your cars, why do you need mileage?
And that's for travel, whether, for employee travel, could be for professional development or any sort of event like that you would get reimbursed. That is for city employee reimbursement, the travel and mileage.
and board member reimbursement.
Board member, yep, as
Oh,
well.
I'm all for that. I noticed you bought a defibrillator too.
Yes.
I'm all for that too.
Yeah, we definitely equipped a first aid kit for really an AED. Yeah, absolutely.
And there's just some, I just want to list some of the other items that that need to be purchased. Digital forensics equipment, cameras, a lot of the recorders, tablets, these tools of the trade that we have to purchase for a lot of our investigators. We have to purchase some really high quality computers to do data and forensic analysis. So that's going to be some thousands of dollars there too.
Now, that equipment list are you planning to add that as a appendix to the proposed budget?
All of those purchases will be completed using this year's fiscal in this year's budget. So it won't be part of the presentation to City Council.
Okay, all right.
And Bob, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to emphasize one thing that Rosabelle said. The $500,000 grant is going to be used next year. And Rosabelle, have we confirmed what it's being spent on?
We have. Okay, I would have to bring that up. I'm sorry. Yes, give me 1 second. It would take me just a second just to bring it up.
And Bob, I want to say that this question got answered very, very recently. It has taken months to get this answer.
Well, that's been a thorn. As you know, that's been a thorn in my side.
Well, you're about to get the full answer, so get excited.
Yes. So we have here. I have to bring it up.
It's okay. Bob, did you have another question while we wait?
Oh, none of these all these are trivial as far as I'm concerned, but I couldn't figure out why you just needed 9 air modems. And those are the only people you have working at home. What am I looking for here? The wire. What are those things called? Air cards.
Air cards.
Yeah. Why did you just need 9 of them?
Rosabelle, do you know the answer to the air card question?
Roosevelt's still looking for the other thing.
Sorry.
Well, then, I'm sorry.
No.
This is
No. I'm not too sure. No. Where does that where do you see, which line is that?
Oh, what you have? Oh, the air cards? That's down towards the bottom. It's PAB cell phones. And the air cards are assumed, are not assumed. Air cards are modems that you put on in your laptop to provide internet connections when you don't have wireless around.
I will.
Roosevelt, I'm just looking for stuff to cause trouble. That's
No, you're funny. No, I love that. So it looks like we will be using, so one purpose of the grant will be office space grant, office space rent. Yep. So it's going to cover 1 year of office space, of the office space, and then we have public affairs for yep. So the second thing will be public affairs, purchasing, like advertising, holding community forums, events, creating public opinion polls, engaging local media to publicize the PAB, also develop printed materials and engage artists to create public art to further the police accountability awareness.
Okay. So I have 2 questions about that. The first question is grants are usually given with the grantor saying what the grant is for. They don't just give you $500,000 and let you run with it. They tell you that it's supposed to be in some category or another.
I don't believe this was restricted.
Yeah, so Bob, this was essentially an eearmark directed for the PAB's general purpose funds. We had to give options.
When I checked with Sandra Brock's office, I didn't get that impression.
Well, I just want to say,
and what they were looking for was wherever the grant comes from, they kept trying to get answers from that location. I'm just concerned about being caught using it in a way that's not approved by the grantor.
Right.
That's as long as you all can satisfy me that you're doing that, that's fine.
Rosabelle, you've been working closely with the city budget department and the state grantor.
Yes.
To make sure that we spent the money in the appropriate way, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right.
And Bob, the air card, the account description is inaccurate.
It is.
When you see PAB cell phones and air cards, and you see 9 of them, that does not mean that PAB bought 9 air cards. What it means is that Rosabelle and her team put in 9 requisitions related to money spent on cell phones. So those are different times that Rosabelle has either had to pay cell phone bills or buy cell phones.
Yes, and I have invoices for all of these. Yes. Yep.
Mm-hmm. You just okay, but so what you're saying is that the descriptions are inaccurate.
Right. These are city categories that define what the actual purchases are.
By the way, I do have a criticism, Rosabelle.
Mm-hmm.
If you need PAB in front of every sentence, then you don't need PAB in front of any sentence.
I did not come. This is how it prints out.
This is Bob. This is the cities.
This is the way the city prints it all out.
Yeah. We did not print this.
No, no way. This is how the city system prints everything out in Excel.
Reverend Harvey,
Mhm.
you've been awfully quiet over there.
Well, I'm just I'm actually looking at
I know
the budget.
this is your first chance looking at this, yeah.
Yeah, I've looked at the budget, but I've not looked at it in as much detail as I'm looking at it now. And I was just curious only curious about, for example, the dues. What do we pay $217,000? And it does say see support tab, which I have not seen, but I'm interested in knowing what the dues is.
Yes, so that's everything from like Westlaw and Clear subscriptions that we need for doing the investigations. And there's more, I know that there's more.
So dues is a category that also covers payment for investigations related databases. So whenever our people do legal research, whenever they do professional background checks, for whatever reason, in the city's budgeting system, it goes into the dues line. So it's not like we're paying $200,000 for people, their bar memberships, right? We are paying, I think we do pay for some bar memberships, but that's just a few $1,000s. The vast majority of that money is for database access.
Mm-hmm. And I would ask, and I would just thank you for that. And I would just ask, I see two professional services. One is the grant, and one is portion for public affairs. Just a little insight on that, and I'd be happy to hear that.
Sure, I'm happy to say. So the $500,000, Roosevelt, that's the New York State grant, right? It shows up as professional services just because that's the way the city marks it. So don't worry about that. Like Roosevelt said, it's going to be spent on rent and adding to this public affairs budget. If Natalie Banks, our chief of public affairs, is on vacation, so she can't be here to answer this question, so I will. The public affairs professional services budget is for things like paying people in the city to knock on doors, get the word out about PAB. It is to purchase advertisements. It's to print informational material. It's to continue the work of we currently work with a nonprofit called Causeway that's helping us with our communication strategy. So some of that money will probably continue to be using on that. So all of it is money for community engagement and awareness about our work.
So thank you for that too. Rent and storage, will we be paying $352,000 per what for?
Per year. And that is for the rent and all of the office equipment in our building. And I want to be clear, our first year of rent, that's going to be paid by the state from the state grant.
I want to circle back to that for a minute, because that seems like a waste. And what I mean by that, Connor, is that rent should be a part of the budget. When you get a grant, that's like found gold. That's stuff that you can play with. You should be able to do something with. You should have been able to do something with that grant that you couldn't do with the city money.
Yeah. So we are limited in a lot of ways with what we can do with the grant. It's not totally unrestricted, but I will say that the grant was part of the way we got to 5 million. And so we didn't end up using the grant this year. And so we didn't want to use it next year. Our being in this current office space, Bob, may be temporary. So what this grant allows us to do is open our doors as quickly as possible, and then let the public know about how to come into that space, work with us, et cetera, right? So without that grant, we would not be able to do a lot of the other things that we would have to do. So, if we didn't have that grant, Bob, we would have to, maybe we cut back, maybe we don't have the office space we have. Maybe we, don't have the same amount of money on, public affairs or, professional services or contracts, right? It is definitely strange. It's not a grant like the ones that I think any of us are used to. It is an earmark for the sake of supporting PAB over a certain amount of time.
So at $30,000 a month,
Mhm.
we must have beautiful first-class corporate space, I would think.
We have very good space, but I think something that people don't understand in the public is, as a part of the lease, we own desks, chairs, conference tables, and equipment for, I believe, over 100 people. That is rolled into the lease. And this is steel case, high quality cubicles, desks, etc. I have not gone, I think that we need to, for the sake of the public, do a rough estimate of what the value of that equipment is. It is well over. I mean, the chairs are like, think about all those office chairs, just what those cost alone. It is a ton of money that we are getting from this equipment. It is a real bargain.
Okay. Some of this I probably would rather not even ask in live, but here we are.
No.
And it's our discussion. So I have no complaints. I'm just being asking for, as a part of this committee, for knowledge so that I can adequately speak to different things about this budget.
Members of the public have these questions too, so I'm glad we're answering them.
Well, we want to ask so that you don't get asked by somebody else.
Yeah. And I'm glad to hear you say that what we're paying for rent is a bargain based on what we're getting.
Yeah, and Rosabelle, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it really, especially now that we're in the space, it really feels like we got a deal.
When are you going to be in the space?
Rosabelle?
We are in the space actually right now. So staff will be coming in on Monday, May 9th, and we will be inviting board members to the space, kind of as a presentation, or have them come along and just do a nice little tour of the space in the coming week, which we're very excited about. So we actually got the keys and have been in the space, myself, in getting everything organized since last week.
Okay, good. Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, we are facing some delays, as always. We can't move a lot of the stuff ourselves because of liability issues. I'm not having any of my people throw out their backs trying to move desks or things.
Understood.
So we are waiting on the city to authorize their building services staff to come in and actually move all of our equipment in.
Understood.
Now this is not finance, but I'm asking this question because I need to. You mentioned staff. Define staff for me, and I'm asking this question based on a number of emails that I've read in the last 24 hours. So just define staff and the levels of staff for me.
Yes. So
in short, please.
Yes. We have paid employees who work for PAB and PAB only. They are our staff. They are attorneys. They are investigators. They are policies analysts. They all have supervisors who usually are called deputy chiefs. Many of them have supervisors named chiefs, like Roosevelt. Our senior staff are people who have chief in their title, or
Okay,
an executive.
I'm sorry, that's what I was looking for, the term senior staff.
Senior staff.
That's what I was looking for, is a definition. You just explained staff to me, and actually it's the senior staff that I needed defined for me. And I think you're doing that now.
Yep. So the senior staff is myself, the executive director, Rosabelle Antonetti, our chief of operations, Natalie Banks, our chief of public affairs, our acting chief of investigations, Dwayne Bosco, our chief of policy and oversight, Mike Higgins, and then once we hire them, our general counsel.
Okay, so we have senior staff, and then we have the staff as you just named it.
That's right.
Believe it or not, it helps me a lot as I've been reading emails this week. That helps me a lot.
Yep, of course.
Yep.
I had an observation and two questions about that. I have a spreadsheet that has a proposed staffing entitled Proposed Staffing 2022 to 2023. And in that, on that spreadsheet, there's staff separated at the top of the spreadsheet: the executive director, the deputy executive director, the accountability inspector, and the secretary to the PAB. That's actually somewhat misleading, I think.
Bob, those are the civil service titles.
It gives, now what I'm saying is, it gives you, since they're separated out, you got those four sitting up there. It looks like those should be the senior staff, but some are senior staff and some aren't. The other comment, I think I've mentioned this to you before, Connor, and I don't know that there's anything really to do about it, but it just tweaks me to see accountability inspectors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scattered amongst different divisions: investigation, operations, policy, and so on. Because there's no easy way to differentiate between an accountability inspector 2 in policy and oversight versus accountability inspector 2 in operations.
Are you saying overlap?
It's not overlap. It's. I mean, you know, it's like putting the same domino in 5 different places.
Right. Bob, what I will say is that what you are seeing, it is a result of the civil service process, right? In PAB, people have working titles, right? They are policy and data analysts. They are investigators. They are staff attorneys. For the sake of the civil service system, when we, have jobs, discussed internally with HR in the Civil Service Commission, they are discussed in different ways than we talk about them in the public and inside PAB. It is all civil service stuff.
Okay. All right.
Now, the job descriptions and the jobs, I guess we really veered off of the budget and the finances. So I'm going to ask my last question, and then I'm going to relinquish any other questions that does not concern finance or budget.
Okay.
Are the jobs and the jobs descriptions delineated different enough that the public would see the differences, or will the public see, how will the public see this? You explained budgetary items to me that even as a board member, I didn't see, but you made me understand, especially about the rent and what comes with that. If our budget is made available to the public and they see it without understanding, not to say that everything has to have explanations, but when there are not explanations and people don't understand, they come up with their own understanding. Yep. So what about the jobs, the descriptions, the differences? Are they distinguished enough that the public will see the differences here? Or will they see what, even as a board member, without explanations, I see it as overlap? How would the public view it?
So whenever we interact with the public around our staffing, our jobs, or our budget, we never use what you are seeing, which is right now, which is the internal city way of doing things. Okay. So one of these jobs, it has a civil service job title and a civil service job description. When we post it on our website, we use language that everyone understands, right? We explain the specific work of the position, we explain everything, and we don't hide the civil service titles, but we make it clear what the job actually does and what his title is. And that's just an example. The same thing with our budget, Dr. Harvey.
Okay.
When we talk about the budget in public, it's not with these weird spreadsheets that show all the details and stuff. We talk about not professional services or air cards or anything like this. We talk about cars. We talk about computers. We talk about people. It's just, and again, if we were to do this presentation formally for the board or something, we take time to make it understandable for the public too.
Okay.
I'm just about done, and I would like to thank you all for coming and helping us with this. I guess the last comment, suggestion that I might have is, and maybe there's a reason why they're not here, but I would footnote a lot of these line items, and I would preemptively explain why they're there, because some of them are not completely intuitive, and if anything you can do that diminishes discussion, that diminishes questions in a budget process, to me are always helpful. I'm just looking to see what and maybe these are things that people in the city that work in the city understand, but I'm looking at the budget and I'm looking at even mileage reimbursement. I might footnote that and just explain that we have workers who go into neighborhoods and do and they use their own cars for transportation, blah blah blah. Telephone chargeback. I don't know what the hell that is. And if I were sitting on a committee looking at this, I want to ask you about that. Food expenses. That was okay until I got over there to the other side there, where the Roosevelt put in drinks. And I thought, oh, drinks. Whoa, wait a
It's actually like snacks and drinks. It was,
minute.
yeah. It's, you know, for board members, yes. You know.
I'm just harassing you. But you see what I'm getting at, though. I mean, you go to meals and food is one thing. Drinks not require, but drinks probably are better explained. Maybe there is a way.
Unless it's really drinks.
Maybe there is, yeah.
No.
Contract labor. Again, I think that's mostly that's that training organization. But that's not obvious. So that's all I Reverend Harvey, that's all I have to say.
Well, I think that's all I have to say. Now, the budget is a lot more than my budget at church, and my budget at church, it has way more stuff than I wish it had on it. So in no wise am I saying bring me a 25-page budget. Bob, I do like the simplicity of this budget, and I'm fine if you guys are fine with us with me asking questions where I'm ill-informed. Then I'm really fine with this budget like this. The only thing I say is there will be those who will see the budget. To Bob's point, there will be those who see the budget and don't have the access to you like we do. And so I do think there needs to be some clarity, some simplicity, and I do agree with Bob in the more simplified, transparent, if you will, then I think the less questions. But by no means am I saying a 20-page blah 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 blah. And I'm done. I appreciate the time tonight. I think we've had a good meeting. Certainly, I don't know if we're supposed to be informing, but I have certainly been informed tonight. And me being informed helps me to be a better member of this committee.
We definitely appreciate the questions, and really honestly, Dr. Harrison, your suggestions on footnotes and everything, making things much more simplified and having those, you know, explanations for those things and those footnotes with regard to each line item is extremely helpful. And
Well, give it a try and see if you like it. Give it a try, and either you'll like it or you won't.
I really like it. Thank you. And
all right.
Thank you for the questions. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Connor?
I'm all set. Thank you all for taking the night.
Try to wake up, Connor. Thanks a lot.
Thanks too. Great meeting.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Rita.
Yeah, everyone.
Good job, Dr. Harrison.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Thanks, everybody.